2023 NHL free agency is almost here, but for the big fish in this free agent class, where will they go? What will they sign for? And what will the contracts look like? Well, watch till the end for the full predictions for every single big fish, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year. You won't want to miss a thing. Now, a lot has been made about how weak this free agent class is, but at the same time, even though there's not any big superstars in this free agent class, there's a lot of players in the middle of the lineup that I think will really help your team out. A lot of middle six forwards, a lot of middle pairing defensemen, a lot of players that could help on a Stanley Cup winning team where there necessarily isn't a lot of superstars, but a lot of players who will get the job done and will still sign for quite a lot. Now let's start the video out with likely the most enticing free agent in the 2023 free agency pool, and that is Dmitry Orlov. 31-year-old Russian D-man, 5'11", 214 pounds. You can see again just the pedigree that he's had with the Capitals and being traded to the Boston Bruins this last year, and you can see in the regular season 17 points in 23 games and 8 points in 7 playoff games. Dmitry Orlov is a solid middle pairing, physical, puck-moving defenseman who I think will get a lot of love, a lot of buzz around this free agency. But to me, the team that will end up getting him is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going to predict a $6.5 million contract for the next 5 seasons. To me, with the Penguins, especially with Dumoulin likely gone, there's a little bit of an opening on that first pair alongside Chris Letang on that left side, and I feel like Orlov fits that placement perfectly. I think Kyle Dubas will be very aggressive in free agency. Orlov will be the big fish that he's able to land. Now, the AAV is a little bit rich, but you don't get him for too long, 5 years past this, and he's a player that I think for Pittsburgh, they'll be willing to take on that higher AAV right now. Maybe even they take a longer-term deal for a lesser AAV, we'll see. But Dmitry Orlov, I think, would be in a unique position with Pittsburgh, and would be kind of along the same lines, I think, of what Torrey Krug got with the St. Louis Blues. That type of alley, but I think Pittsburgh would really land a pretty solid player here on that defense, and it could solve a lot of issues with their D as well. Next up, going on to Patrick Kane, and a fascinating player here on the market, since of course he'll be injured for likely the first couple of months of the season. I think that does take a few teams out of the running that would want an impact player now, but to me, I think the team that will likely end up getting Patrick Kane is the Carolina Hurricanes, but I only see it being a short-term deal, likely 1 year at $5 million. The Canes have a lot of cap space, they got $21 million, and I think they'll want to work in that top 6, make it a little bit different than what we've seen before, and Patrick Kane I think would be fascinating onto that Canes top 6. I'm not the biggest fan of him, and to me, you guys saw just leading up to that trade with the Rangers, how I didn't really think it was going to work out, and of course in the playoffs, even though he was okay, I guess, he still didn't have much team success there. The Canes, though, are looking to change their forward group a lot, and I think a tryout deal with Patrick Kane will be fine, but he's searching to win another cup. He's searching for more wins. The Carolina Hurricanes are right there knocking on the door, and I think they'll make some massive changes with Kane included. Next up, let's go on to another New York Rangers UFA in Vladimir Tarasenko, 31 years old, 6 foot, 225 pounds, and I think he's definitely going to get a much better deal than what Patrick Kane will likely get. You can see this last year, just over the past couple of seasons, that great 2022 with St. Louis, but also a solid regular season and playoffs on the New York Rangers, I think will repel his value quite a bit on the open market. As for who will actually end up signing him, I see it being the Colorado Avalanche. I see it being a $5 million deal for the next 4 seasons, pretty respectable for what Tarasenko can bring, but I think Tarasenko might take a little bit of a pay cut as well, AAV-wise, to go to a team like Colorado, which I think would give him a great opportunity on that right wing with Landeskog gone, and I think would also give him a great opportunity to win another Stanley Cup, which I think is what Tarasenko's looking for at this stage. He's already made a ton of money, but he'll be making still pretty solid money in Colorado with a great team around him too. But again, because of that Landeskog injury and also likely JT Compher being gone, I think we'll see a lot of changes with the Avs. We already saw them going after Ryan Johansson, but on the forward group, I could see them adding another big player in free agency, and Tarasenko fits that a lot for them. Next up, going on to one of the most impossible players to predict in this year's NHL free agency, in Tyler Bertuzzi, who will likely be one of the more interesting ones here, and I think will likely be searching for a long-term deal. But you can see 28 years old, 6'1", 185 pounds, played with Detroit and then for Boston this last year, and was great for the Bruins. 16 points in 21 regular season games, and then 10 points in 7 playoff games. Was really one of the Bruins' best players in that stretch, and I think for Bertuzzi, that will lead to some big dough in this offseason. Now, for the team that will actually actually sign him, to me it's interesting because I think both teams like Ottawa and Toronto would really be a great fit for him. The problem is, even though he's Canadian, I'm not sure how likely it is that he'd want to sign with a Canadian team. To me, I think it will be a lot more likely that we see him go to the States, and there's a few teams that would be a really good fit for him, I think, in terms of just the pure fit, like a team like the Florida Panthers, but again, in terms of making the contract work for the player that Bertuzzi is, I'm not sure if that's all too likely, but to me, a team that has good cap space and also a great fit for him is the Nashville Predators. I see them signing him with a $6 million deal for the next 7 years, being basically locked up in that core with the Preds. Barry Trotz is likely to make some big moves this offseason. Bertuzzi, I think, would really want to play in a market like Nashville with a team like Nashville and build up around some of the prospects they're coming up with. But I think Bertuzzi will be fine going into a team like the Preds, who could still be kind of in that compete level. We'll see where Bertuzzi lands, but I think a team like Nashville that has all the cap space to offer, I think Bertuzzi will take the dough over going for a true contender for sure. And in that long-term security, especially with the injury troubles that he's had. Now going on to another big-time winger here in Jason Zucker, who had a great year last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. 48 points, 27 goals in 78 games, and a really big resurgence for him. But he'll be really interesting in the open market. 31 years old, but I think he's a player that's a little bit more likely to go to Canada. And I think he will end up signing with the Ottawa Senators. They have a little bit of a hole on that left wing, and I think with DeBrincat traded, they can go out and get another free agent here. Zucker, I think, makes a lot of sense for them, especially alongside a player like Drake Batherson. And if you're going to be on that second line with Josh Norris as well. To me, I really like that fit, and especially in the power play, we'll see how much he's able to play there. But to me, I think Zucker would fit there well too. And if Ottawa is able to give them a little more years at that 5-year mark, I think Ottawa makes a lot of sense. And another player that has had some inconsistencies, but if he played like he did last year, I think for Ottawa, that's a great addition to have onto that top 6. Now going on to maybe the best, most premier center in this free agent class, which is crazy to say, but it's a really bad one for centerman. It is really, really bad. We have JT Compher, formerly of the Colorado Avalanche. Now, to me, JT Compher is in a position to take just money. Obviously, he won the Stanley Cup last year, but at his age, I think he's going to go for as long as possible, as much money as possible, not worrying about the team. You can see this last year, 52 points in 82 games, and I think he's going to get a pretty big payday. The team that I think will give it to him will be the Chicago Blackhawks. I think with their center situation, he could be right behind Connor Bedard as that second line center for them, and I think it could really work out. But I see it being a $5 million, 5-year deal, just like what Jason Zucker is going to get in Ottawa. But I think Compher is a player that will like that opportunity, will like just chilling with the Chicago Blackhawks and coming up with Connor Bedard and being a center there, and wants players like Oliver Moore come up. He could be the third line center, and it won't be too bad. But I think Compher is going to be in a unique position where he takes the most money. Chicago wants to get to that cap floor. Compher helps them get there. Also, you consider that Compher is from Northbrook, Illinois, 30 minutes from Chicago. He likely grew up a Blackhawks fan. This is going to happen. Now going on to another fascinating player to predict here in Alex Killorn, a player who has rejected all the offers that the Tampa Bay Lightning have given him, trying to go for as much as humanly possible while he's still 33. And it makes sense for Killorn going on the open market. He's going to be looking for that cash, going to be looking for that dough. And you can see this last year, 64 points in 82 games. He's an interesting player where I think he might prioritize term just a little bit, but is still going to be looking for that high AAV. Obviously, I think the Detroit Red Wings make a lot of sense though. Steve Yzerman obviously having that connection for a really long time. I think Killorn would want to be back under Steve Yzerman, and I think it'll be a $5.5 million deal for the next 4 seasons. Being on that right wing and having, of course, Perron ahead of him, maybe Bergen on that third line to start out, I think Killorn could settle in on that second line for the Red Wings, be comfortable there, not have it be too long for Detroit, and I think that'll be something that they'll be fine taking on, especially as well with how many free agents they've already signed over the past few years. They seem comfortable going in the open market. Killorn makes a lot of sense for them. Now going on to Michael Bunting, the self-proposed best free agent of this class, which I definitely don't agree with, but he's a player that I think will also be looking for the most money possible in a pretty unique situation. I don't think he's going to be really caring much about the team itself in his position, and you see this last year, 49 points in 82 games, before that 63 points in 79 games. I think the stock is relatively low of Bunting, especially considering what he'd done at different points in the playoffs and just everything that he was doing. It was just a lot of goofiness and a lot of going all crazy, and I think that might maybe put some teams, especially in a contending spot, away from him. I think he will ultimately land with the Anaheim Ducks, signing for $4.25 million for the next 4 seasons. I think he'll be in a good spot with Anaheim. He'll be in a position where he can play alongside, maybe if he wants to play with a player like McTavish or a player like Trevor Zegras, he can be in that spot, likely play in that top 6, good minutes, probably get some pretty good production, and just chill over an OC. I don't think he'll mind that whatsoever. Next up, we're going to go to Max Domi, who is also just a really weird player to predict. And he's a player that, in my opinion, might get kind of flown to the wayside and might have to be forced to sign a 1-year deal. And there's no real reason why I'm saying that. It just feels like Max Domi might be a player that is just kind of lesser on teams' priority lists. I think he will end up signing a 1-year deal, maybe a little bit later in the offseason, and I think he will be signing with the Florida Panthers. I think he'll sign for $5 million as a kind of prove-it deal with what he did last year with Chicago and just the solid playoffs he had with Dallas. I think he's in a position to go to a contender, trying to win a Stanley Cup. Going to a team like Florida, I think would be fascinating for him to really get some good consistency going there and prove himself even more. And I think after that, next year's offseason is where he can really get a payday. If he has 2 great seasons back to back, I think that'll be fantastic for his stock. As for right now, I don't really see him getting much term, and I see him kind of settling in the end. But still, I mean, for a player that is as competitive as Max Domi, to go to a team like Florida who has basically all the Max Domis in the world around him, I think that would be the perfect environment for him to really explode, really do well, and hopefully have some great playoff success as well. But now we go on to the goalies here, and first we're going to go with Joonas Korpisalo, who is also really wild right now, and I'm not really sure where the stock really lies with him. He's 29 years old, turned 29 this last April, and you can see he was traded from Columbus and then went on to the LA Kings, where in the regular season did pretty well and started great in the playoffs, but trailed a little bit after a while in that series versus Edmonton. Still, I think teams look at what he did in those 11 games versus LA and can really like the fit, especially if he's in a much better defense, and he did play pretty well with Columbus, getting a .913 save percentage when he did play this last year. So I think he'll be in a unique spot where a lot of contending teams are still going to want to go after him. I think the team to land him will be the Carolina Hurricanes. And of course, they've already went out and gotten Patrick Kane. I think they're going to go after Korpisalo and try to solidify that net just a little bit. I think so Korpisalo will end up getting a $5.25 million deal for 2 years. Not too much length, because I think Korpisalo is going to be wanting to get a little more term, and I don't know if he's going to get too much in this free agency, but in Carolina's defensive system, I think for Korpisalo that would be perfect, and I think for Carolina also, it would be a good situation for him to go in. And honestly, might be best for both sides too. Now on to the second goaltender here in Tristan Jarry, who, if you thought Korpisalo was hard to predict where he would go, Tristan Jarry is a whole different ballgame. To me, I feel like for Jarry especially, if he's healthy at least, there's no reason why I wouldn't just accept a 1-year deal somewhere. And this is why I think he will ultimately land with the Buffalo Sabres. At $3.5 million, Buffalo is obviously going to hopefully be a little bit active in the goalie market here. There was, of course, trade rumors around Hellebuck and Gibson and other players like that. But I think free agency could be a spot where they maybe get somebody that can play some games for them. The problem is, again, the health of Jarry and just what we've seen hasn't been able to play nearly as much as you'd like. And in those big situations in the playoffs, hasn't been able to stay healthy. You can see this last year, a .909 save percentage in 47 games. He was fine, but I think in Buffalo's system, maybe with a younger team, Jarry could kind of find himself in a much better position. But again, I think Jarry's in a position where he should take a shorter term deal, try to get back to that pedigree that we saw just a few years ago at Pittsburgh, and hopefully get a bigger term deal once for the Sabres, Levi's ready, and they put him off to free agency. But that's what I would expect Jarry to do. That's what I hope he does, because I still think there is talent there. Buffalo will be a pretty exciting team. If they do add onto that defense, it won't be a bad team at all. I think Jarry would fit in very solid. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Those are my free agency predictions for 2023. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think? What do you agree and what do you disagree with for my predictions? And let us know down below, where do you guys see the big free agent signing in this class? How much do they sign for? How many years do they go for? And who do you see your team signing in this 2023 free agency? Let us know down below. Thank you so much for watching, though, and I appreciate all the support. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and share the video for all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the free agent predictions out to them, and click on this card for all my prediction stock right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic friggin' day. Drink some water, and have a great time, y'all. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.